So the chassis work begins. Got a little ahead of myself and started lobbing off a couple of brackets before I started explaining what I'm doing here. Okay, so this middle section of the frame is parallel and straight and already boxed. It's gonna, we're gonna take all these mounts off in this section and take out 9 inches. It is, this wheelbase is 123 and the Ford under the tarp is 114. So we need 9 inches gone. And I'm gonna do it right in that center flat section that's boxed. I'm gonna finish boxing the rest of the frame. Not gonna worry too much about details back here until I have it sitting under the car and figure out what I need to do for getting the 4-link into the rear, get it mounted onto the body. But I really want to get the body onto this to see what the plan is for mounting it, and can't do that until I have the wheelbase where it needs to be. So that's what I'm working on. This cross member is used to hold the the bearing for the drive shaft. That's riveted in. That's coming out. Some kind of support will go back in, but in its current configuration, it's absolutely in the way. Not to mention in the way for exhaust and drive shaft being lower. That zigzaggy transmission mount is leaving. That was for the original S10, and there's a Holly version that will go in. I still might move the engine back further than what the mounts prescribe, the swap mounts, because I have I can do whatever I want with the firewall. But in the meantime, that's a placeholder, so that front end is going to get rebuilt with tubular control arms and lowered and all that. But in the meantime, it's get the wheelbase shortened up, so that's what we're doing. Okay, it's cut. So I went through all sorts of measuring and looking at some YouTube videos, and there were a ton of recommendations about get the section that you're going to put together completely level. So which I can see the logic in that, completely watching their videos, so I did that. I used the rear as my benchmark because I figured I'd stabilize the front and then make the cut and then roll the rear to it. So that was my reasoning. So the front is sitting up on jack stands and some welded bars, and left to right it was level, and front to back it's level at that rail. So then started making lots of marks and cuts and figured out that I needed to take out exactly 9 inches, leave the line. So I drew the lines carefully, and the top sections are dead nuts perfect. And so I'll pull that together and see how the rest of it played out. I can fudge it, 1/4 inch either way. So depending on if I need to cut away a little bit more and make it, get the gap perfect, or just grind to keep it at the 9 inches, that's fine. But I feel like I can play with a 1/4 on that. So the next step will be to pull that together. I've got some serious angle iron to kind of hold it level to itself, and then start tacking it together. I'm going to fish plate it. It's certainly both sides, and I'm assuming on the top and bottom. I need to kind of do a little bit more homework to see what's the wisdom on that. But because this thing is a kind of a full box already, I'm assuming that the sides will get it done, but again, I'll do some more homework and then come up with something. But yeah, that's freshly cut. I'll put it together, take some more shots of it, and follow up. Okay, so this is pretty exciting. I got it all figured out, got it clamped up. I'm ready to start welding things in. Obviously, I'll spot it around the perimeter, hold everything in place, and then start filling in the beads. I got it exactly where I want it. Had to trim out a little bit more on the 45s, but the top and the bottom I got completely right, so I didn't have to play with those other than open up a little bit of a V for the welding bead. If someone's doing this video is going to be for shortening an S10 frame, but it really applies to anything. The biggest takeaway I have is I completely agree, get 1/2 of the frame exactly level so that you can just roll the other side of the frame back and forth until you're happy with the gap. Through other people's suggestion, I put on these 2 temporary cross braces. The small 1-inch square tube has nuts welded at the end, and then I found 2 holes that were exactly opposite each other on the frame that I just bolted those in. Made sense. The other one, there wasn't really holes existing, so I just spot welded, or not spot welded, I just tack welded in a scrap, and that's a 1x2. I think I could have done anything, but it gave me the ability to throw these pipe clamps on to draw it together exactly where I wanted it and hold it. And then, of course, you want to make sure that the rail is going back together completely flat, so there's no break in the angle there. And I don't think the car had to be exactly level, but it sure made it easier to find, you know, to roll the other one back and forth and just not have to fight with an angle. I've got a big piece of angle iron on the bottom there that is making sure it's straight. And then another piece of scrap something on the other side doing the same thing, but it's all clamped like crazy. And I did have a couple of reference holes on the frame that I was able to check. So I have taken out exactly 9 inches of metal and left myself a little V-notch for welding, but there it is. So gonna weld it up and then figure out some fish plates, but that's the hard part. Feels like it's done. All right, thanks. Okay, so I tacked it in about every 2 inches or so down both diagonals on both sides, and then just welded it all up. So I got a plan for fish plate, and I will cut those out and show you those shortly. So that is the fish plate. There are one of those on both sides of each rail, and the plug welds in the middle are all filled in. Those all flatten out. The perimeter welds I will leave alone. I will finish welding the entire perimeter, but I had a lot of heat going into the frame. I had bounced around from side to side and still was getting warm, so I'm giving it a break. Thought I would finish this up. So the gray primer on there is a weldable primer, and the back sides of the plates were primed, the frame was primed, and then clamped on and tacked in or stitch welded in. So there are 4 of those, 2 on the inside and 2 on the outside. So there we go. We shortened the frame 9 inches, got it all back together, and so hopefully the next video is me getting the frame aligned with the car and start figuring out body mounts for it. All right, thanks for watching.